Dodrio.
Wait. What? Huh? I had to do a double take here. There's a Dodrio?
Yes, that is Dodrio. Now,
I don't know what Jonathan is thinking about here. There's got to be a reason why he is running Dodrio at a local in Regulation G.
well, Dodrio is a normal and flying type, so it can it doesn't take any damage from Precipice Blades, resists Astral Barrage, and it's also very fast. It gets a lot of strong moves like that knockoff to deal with Calyrex Shadow, but the most exciting thing that you will see is Endeavor, which can put Landon in
disadvantageous position.
Absolutely, yes.
So when we look at Landon's team, we do see, as you said, the Calyrex Shadow Rider. It's Terra Dark with the Covert Cloak. So any attacks with a secondary effect will not affect that Calyrex, such as Icy Wind, Snarl, Dark Pulse, Heat Wave, Rock Slide. You would know that as a Hisuian Arcanine lover. If he terastallizes, Fake Out doesn't work. He's got Rillaboom and Incineroar. He's got 2 Fake Out users. Alongside with that Incineroar, it's got Knockoff and Helping Hand. Helping Hand is an incredible utility move. And of course they gave it to the best Pokemon in the game in Incineroar. And it's also Wolf Glick's favorite Pokemon too. I've heard rumors that Wolf Glick very much loves Incineroar.
Yes, I've heard those rumors. We can confirm them. We'll have to hear it from him himself.
Most likely, but we do also see the Ogerpon Hearthflame with the Hearthflame mask, Terrafire, Spiky Shield, Ivy Cudgel, Grassy Glide, and Follow Me. A nice complacent point to Rillaboom with Grassy Surge.
Right, and holding that Heartflame mask, that +1 attack, if it chooses to Terra, is going to pay dividends with that priority attack.
And with Helping Hand, too.
And look, we see the Dodrio on Jonathan's side, but we also see Iron Treads.
Ooh, this is interesting. You don't usually see Iron Treads very much, but it makes sense if you're running Miraidon that you're going to be using a lot of the future Paradox Pokemon, since Miraidon's ability Hadron Engine sets up the electric terrain and thereby activates Quark Drive on Iron Treads, Iron Hands, Iron Bundle, Iron Crown, Iron Leaves. You know, rest in peace to Iron Leaves, because Iron Leaves doesn't really see much, unfortunately.
Right, and I believe Iron Treads is 8-1 at the Rio de Janeiro regional, or the regional that's happening right now.
Oh, in Birmingham?
No, the Latin American.
Oh, in Latin America? Okay.
So, very exciting. We saw it used at Worlds by Gabriel Gotti, and I believe it also got second place in the juniors division with Zamazenta. So, it's going to be really interesting to see how Iron Treads performs for Jonathan here.
And also, we have to keep in mind with Jonathan, he does have Araquanid too. Araquanid right now, the fact that it has Wide Guard as a move, that can shut down the Calyrex Shadow Rider if it goes for something like an Astral Barrage, especially after a nasty plot. Now, it doesn't want to take a Size Shock from the Calyrex Shadow Rider due to it being a single target attack, but it sure would like to prevent Astral Barrages from getting onto Jonathan's side of the field.
Right, absolutely. I actually think Dodrio is matched up very well into Landon's team, having access to flying type attacks and so many grass types on Landon's team. It will be interesting to see if Landon does bring that Raging Bolt to try to deal with that Dodrio.
It would actually be interesting if he does bring it. I do feel like it has an advantage, not only by the super effective, but the Hadron Engine. Just because it helps future Paradox Pokemon, it helps Raging Bolt as an electric type.
Absolutely. So that will be very exciting to see.
And we're going to get into game 1 here. We're going to see Jonathan lead off with that Dodrio. Dodrio is here!
I know.
Dodrio is here alongside Grimmsnarl versus Calyrex Shadow Rider and Rillaboom. This is a good lead for Landon, but at the same time, we see a Dodrio on the screen, Adit. Yeah, we made it!
This is, I mean, I haven't seen Dodrio since Generation 3.
I don't think I've seen Dodrio at all. Maybe, like, you try to catch it in the Safari Zone, but...
So we see Rillaboom lock in U-turn on to Dodrio, and we see a Protect from Calyrex Shadow. Now, this is going to be really interesting if Jonathan has decided to go for a Terra, maybe trying to avoid a potential fake out. But we'll have to see how this turn plays out. I think overall it's a very safe turn by Landon, and if Jonathan can punish that passive, the passive play, we'll see. So Calyrex goes for the protect.
And it does prevent damage for this turn. Meanwhile, Grimmsnarl going for that light screen. Very important to go for light screen here to half the damage of special attacks. We do see a Drill Peck come out and does
So
well
much
over
damage.
75% onto the Rillaboom, but Rillaboom going for that U-turn into Dodrio, and most importantly, it broke the Focus Sash on the Dodrio. So
Right.
now, if Raging Bolt comes, as we do see it is in the back here, there's a Thunderclap that can come out right into that Dodrio slot.
And right, and this creates a perfect pin. Thunderclap with that booster special attack on Raging Bolt. Dodrio is so frail. A Thunderclap is going to knock it out no matter what. Now, Calyrex is going for that Terra Dark, potentially trying to avoid a knockoff from the Dodrio, but we will have to see how this turn plays out. But it seems right now Landon has created a great pin on Jonathan's side.
I believe you are correct, especially with, like you said, because Raging Bolt just got its booster energy off on its switch in, and it boosted its special attack by 30%. So Thunderclaps are going to hurt. Right now, they were going to hurt no matter what, being priority move. But you add in the potential of the Miraidon in the back for Jonathan, and suddenly Miraidon is boosting the power of a booster energy Raging Bolt Thunderclap.
Right, and we see that Terra Dark on that Calyrex, so the Terra has been committed on Landon's side.
And we see a Protect coming out on the side of Dodrio, probably calling that Thunderclap spot here at Deed. And there is the Thunderclap. So what did this Grimmsnarl end up going for as we see a nasty plot come off on this Calyrex? And ooh, suddenly this Calyrex is getting massively powerful as the Foul Play comes out here on Grimmsnarl. That would normally be 4 times super effective. That is a beautiful terrestrialization
yes.
by Landon to prevent a 4 times super effective physical attack move. Now, while it does use your target's physical attack, it's still going to hurt a Calyrex Shadow Rider coming off of a dark type like Grimmsnarl.
Absolutely, yes. I think that was a very beautiful play by Landon, really inoculating his Calyrex from any potential damage. Now it's looking so good in front of this Dodrio and this Grimmsnarl. Now this Grimmsnarl also carries Foul Play, which means it has no access to Spirit Break. Foul Play is its only attack.
And we see the Thunderclap come out, and Dodrio goes down to the Thunderclap on a critical hit, too. I believe that critical hit might have mattered there, Adid. I believe that critical hit might have mattered.
Well, possibly.
As we do see Reflect come out on the side of Grimmsnarl here, as Calyrex going for another nasty plot. That is huge. Suddenly, this Calyrex, Adid, it's at +4 on its special attack. I don't even think Grimmsnarl can survive through the resist.
Well,
it might be close.
There's a light screen set up, but even so, I like Landon's play of just really punishing the passivity of Jonathan's side for now, and just keep on stacking up those special attack boosts.
And we do see Araquanid is the third Pokemon on the side of Jonathan Martin here, and that's amazing. Araquanid, we do note that it has Wide Guard to prevent the Astral Barrage from coming off here, but again, Calyrex has Size Shot, which is a special attack that does physical damage to your opponent. So the boost stay to Calyrex, but it's a 165 base special attack into whatever defense base stat is on Araquanid, and honestly, I don't know that off the top of my head.
Yeah, Araquanid's defense is actually not very great. It has some decent special bulk, but this Size Shock should be doing so much damage.
The other thing here is that Araquanid does have access to Lunge, which is a physical bug type move that is now super effective on this Terra Dark Calyrex Shadow Rider, as Incineroar makes an appearance onto the field, and out switches Grimmsnarl on Jonathan's side into, I'm assuming it is the Miraidon. The Miraidon makes its first appearance on the battlefield.
Right, turning that Grassy Terrain electric and turning off that passive recovery from the grassy terrain on that Calyrex.
And we see a terrestrialization on the side of Jonathan Martin. His Araquanid is trying to play into the draconic side of history and Pokemon, as it is now a Terra Dragon instead of the water and bug type here, as Calyrex going for a protect here, potentially looking for that lunge, but no, it's just a wide guard.
Yeah, so this is a very interesting turn. So we have Fake Out to prevent the any potential wide guards, and Calyrex is at +4 special attack. So whatever, if it pressed Astral Barrage, it should be doing so much damage into whatever switches in.
Exactly, and based on this Miraidon here, it could actually be close because Modest Miraidon definitely will not outspeed a Calyrex Shadow Rider. However, a timid Miraidon probably could outspeed a modest Calyrex Shadow Rider. As we do see Fake Out comes out. It was affected by the Rock Ammo, but here comes that +4 Astral Barrage, and Araquanid survived thanks to that light screen. That is incredible.
Right, but it seems like Landon has put himself in a very good position. Araquanid is at -1 attack. Grimmsnarl has no way to super effectively hit this Calyrex. So the Intimidate cycle, Fake Out, Revolving Door, it seems to be very good for Landon in this game.
It does seem like Landon has the advantage right now due to that Intimidate cycling, because Incineroar has done its job. It got the Fake Out off to prevent Araquanid from being able to click Wide Guard on that first turn. Now, Jonathan could have, in theory, clicked Protect to scout for that Fake Out, but it was the potential of Fake Out coming into either slot. He didn't really have a choice on which one to get faked out.
Right, and that is why that Miraidon had to switch out. It had no way to protect itself from getting faked out and possibly taking so much damage from Astral Barrage.
And we do see a Protect come out on the side of this Calyrex Shadow Rider here once again. Now it comes down to what the Araquanid did. It did go for that Wide Guard once more, but what did this Grimmsnarl end up going for? It went for Foul Play into the Rillaboom, and Rillaboom goes down, so now Rillaboom is down on Landon Story's side, and Jonathan suddenly has the Terrain Wars back in his favor.
Right, that could be very impactful too, because that means there is no Grassy Glide going into that Araquanid. But we see Incineroar switch in, providing another Fake Out opportunity for Landon. And Grimmsnarl is still at -2 attack. Foul Play might actually... I don't believe Foul Play is affected by the attack stat of the opposing Pokemon, but it's still a very good position for Landon.
And we do see another Fake Out come out into that Araquanid slot here. The opposing Araquanid flinches, and here comes that +4 Astral Barrage into the Araquanid and the Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl survives with the light screen and the resist, but Araquanid is sadly down. And now, by virtue of Araquanid going down to this Astral Barrage, that Calyrex was +4 on special attack. With the Grim Neigh, it's now +5 special attack.
It's going to do so much damage to whatever Jonathan has in the back, and we know it's that Miraidon. Now, it will come down to how these Pokemon are trained. If Calyrex is faster than Miraidon, it looks like this is a game over for for Jonathan in this first set of our League Cup in Oviedo.
And also, we have to keep in mind that Miraidon does not have access to the Terrestrialization because Araquanid terrestrialized in this game. If he would have terrestrialized the Miraidon, Choice Specs Terra Fairy Dazzling with the Hadron Engine, I think the Calyrex could probably go down here, but it would just come down to whether or not Calyrex is faster than Miraidon. But we're going to find out right now, as the Calyrex is faster than Miraidon. This is a helping hand +5. You might as well give Calyrex every boost under the sun, because that is a one-hit knockout into the Miraidon. It knocks out the Grimmsnarl, and Landon Story takes game number 1 on the back of that Calyrex Shadow Rider.
That was a beautiful position for Landon to be in. Getting that Incineroar, going for that helping hand, really just saying, I'm going to ignore your light screen. Really smart plays by Landon here.
And it was also kind of risky as well because you're getting those nasty plots off. Yes, you had the Grimmsnarl out in front, so that helps out with the Terra Dark turning off that 4 times weakness to foul play. At the same time, you're taking a very calculated risk with those nasty plots because one nasty plot too many, and suddenly your Calyrex is down and you've lost your restricted Pokemon, especially one that had as many special attack boosts as it did.
Are there any adjustments that you would like to see from Jonathan going into this game too?
You know, this is going to be a little, how would I say it? Unorthodox is a good word of putting it. Look at this Iron Treads. It has Steel Roller on its move set. Steel Roller is a base 130 power move that removes terrain. Now, while it removes the terrain, it does big damage on that turn. In theory, Iron Treads can come out, use Steel Roller on something like the Rillaboom or the Calyrex slot, and get rid of that grassy terrain. Then you bring on Miraidon, and suddenly you have the terrain with a Steel Roller.
Right, that is a very interesting application that this Iron Treads can do. Note that Steel Roller only works when the terrain is up. It's a very strong attack, but you can only use it once depending on how the game state is. So we'll have to see if Iron Treads actually comes in. I personally would love to see Thunder Wave on Grimmsnarl, really punishing Calyrex for playing so passively and getting that speed advantage. So that Terra Fairy Miraidon can really shine in the late game.
And it's also important to note, Adi, because we didn't mention that in game number 1. Grimmsnarl does have Thunder Wave. That's what the Terra Dark is for on the Calyrex Shadow Rider. By virtue of Generation 7's changes to Prankster, Prankster status moves do not affect a Dark-type Pokemon. As we do see a switch-up on Jonathan's side, he brings the Iron Hands for game number 2 alongside the Grimmsnarl as a lead, and it's Rillaboom and Urshifu Rapid Strike for Landon's story here.
Right, and I think this lead from Jonathan Martin looks very good here. We do see that Rillaboom will be faster than Iron Hands typically, but we also see Urshifu having access to Taunt instead of the usual Aqua Jet. Now, this should be very interesting if Urshifu will be able to shut down Grimmsnarl right off the bat.
Exactly, because while Taunt will work on Grimmsnarl due to Urshifu not having Prankster, if it was something like a Whimsicott with Prankster or an opposing Grimmsnarl, they would not work unless one of those Grimmsnarls terastallizes out of their Dark typing. But that would still leave them weak to their Fairy type moves if it was on their opponent's Pokemon's moveset.
Right, and then we see Urshifu switch out for Raging Bolt, getting that booster special attack.
And we see the special attack come out here on the Raging Bolt. Grimmsnarl going for the Thunder Wave into the Raging Bolt slot. It is not affected at all, and in comes a U-turn onto this Iron Hands, getting a little bit of damage on the Iron Hands here, which could go a long way, but it remains to be seen what comes out in the back for Landon. It could be the Urshifu right back, or it could be, as we see, the Calyrex Shadow Rider.
Yeah, Landon has to really think about this decision. Is he going to be able to get in this Urshifu for free? Let's see.
We see the Urshifu come out. We see a Drain Punch come out into the Urshifu slot here, which heals up all that damage from U-turn with the resist without needing the grassy terrain. But more importantly, Adi, it breaks the focus sash on this Urshifu Rapid Strike.
Right, and this puts Jonathan in a very good position. Breaking that focus sash has always been very impactful against these sash Urshifu. So we'll have to see if this has paid off for Jonathan.
We will definitely have to see this because now the Raging Bolt, we saw it come out with that booster special attack. It'll do big damage on that Grimmsnarl with or without the light screen, but we do see the light screen is the move of choice on Grimmsnarl here as a Surging Strikes comes out, doing critical hits all 3 times. It's a very healthy move. It's a very healthy move, isn't it?
Yes, it is a very healthy move. It's looking like, depending on the targeting, this Grimmsnarl will be down.
And we do see this Thunderbolt. Oh, it survives, but it got paralyzed. It was paralyzed on that Thunderbolt, that is massive. And in comes a Drain Punch, doing good damage into that Raging Bolt, just whittling down that HP, which is also important for Jonathan Martin right now.
Right, yes, this Raging Bolt looks like it is Landon's second restricted almost, with such a high stat pool and that booster special attack, so neutralizing it will be crucial for Jonathan's victory.
I agree with that, because now you're looking at what can happen with the Grimmsnarl now that it's paralyzed. There is I believe it's a 25% chance that Grimmsnarl won't be able to attack on this turn, so it couldn't go for a Reflect, it couldn't go for a Thunder Wave, it couldn't even go for a Foul Play, potentially into Urshifu, which even though it's resisted, it takes Urshifu's physical attack stat to do damage.
Yes, absolutely. Important to note that Urshifu does resist Foul Play, so it is in a fairly okay position. Now, but we see that Jonathan switches out.
And in comes the Miraidon here. Hadron Engine is now activated, and it energizes its engine, but more importantly, it energizes the Iron Hands, and the attack stat on this Iron Hands just got boosted by 30%. Meanwhile, in comes the critical hit Surging Strikes into this Iron Hands slot here, which is, again, doing great damage with guaranteed critical hits. But now these Drain Punches are going to hurt a lot more.
Absolutely.
And we see a Thunderbolt come out here. This is quad resisted into the Miraidon, and that was with the electric terrain. But the Wild Charge is the move of choice on Jonathan's side. Getting rid of that Urshifu Rapid Strike, a fair trade-off in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. That was a very safe turn for Jonathan. Very good that he brought in the Miraidon. But we see Landon bringing that Rillaboom in, overriding the terrain, and removing that Iron Hands' Fourth Drive. And
also, if Landon keeps the Raging Bolt out here, a Fake Out and a Thunderclap will still do good damage on the Miraidon if it terastallizes into Fairy. If it doesn't terastallize, a Draco Meteor probably would do big damage into the Miraidon here. It all comes down to those mind games right now. Do I terastallize in front of this Raging Bolt, turning off my resistance, but making an immunity and a neutrality? It all comes down to what you want to do with this Miraidon, because you do want to have the terrain, in my opinion.
Right, absolutely. And I think preserving this Rillaboom is going to be very important for Landon if he wants to make it out from this Miraidon.
Yeah, so we're going to see what happens here with this Iron Hands and Miraidon. I mean, I could even see Iron Hands potentially switching out here, potentially. But we do see a Terastallization come out on the side of Jonathan Martin. His Terra Orb is activating, and Miraidon, it's feeling the love at this League Cup, indeed. It's feeling the love, and it's Terastallized into a Fairy type. So it turns off the weakness to Dragon type, but it now is neutral to that Raging Bolt's Thunderbolt, and it's now neutral to the grassy terrain.
Right, and we can see Jonathan popped off a little bit. That Terra Fairy avoiding, that Terra Fairy making Miraidon immune to that Draco Meteor. So very good turn from Jonathan.
It was an excellent turn from Jonathan, but now we have to see how much damage Miraidon will take, because there are two Pokemon on Landon's side that have priority moves, but more importantly, those priority moves are neutral on Miraidon by virtue of that Terra Fairy. Iron Hands is in a great position right now. Just clicks the Drain Punches here and gets recovery. But it's going to come down to what this Miraidon goes for, I think.
Right. So this will be a very important turn for Jonathan. Will he keep that Miraidon in, or will he switch it out? We'll have to see.
And Landon is thinking really hard about what he wants to do here. But we do see a switch out here on the Miraidon, switching it out to keep the terrain in his favor and bringing out that Grimmsnarl, just sacrificing it off here by virtue of it being low HP and the paralysis. But we do see Landon has activated his Terra Orb as well, and he flings his Terra Orb into the Raging Bolt. Raging Bolt says, you know, Miraidon, I'm feeling the love too. We're both electric dragons. Why not become Fairy types ourselves?
Right. Yes, absolutely showing off that heart shape in Orlando.
And we do see the Grassy Glide come out into the Grimmsnarl, knocking out the Grimmsnarl here. But now it comes down to what the Iron Hands went for after the Thunderclap, which does fail. Actually, no, it doesn't fail, because Iron Hands' assault vest, so it goes into...
Oh, low kick does a good amount of damage.
That is big damage through the resisted hit, Adi.
Right, Raging Bolt is a very heavy Pokemon despite its very slender neck. So we should be very excited to see.
And there's the Iron Treads!
Yes, that is the adaptation that we were looking for. Iron Treads paying dividends into this Terra Fairy. Paying dividends into this Terra Fairy Raging Bolt. Being able to go for Steel Roller very safely. Now, it will be interesting to see if Rillaboom targets down that Iron Treads or if Miraidon switches in.
And we see a Protect come out on the side of Iron Treads here, just protecting itself for one turn here. A U-turn comes out, and it fails into the Iron Treads slot here, keeping Iron Treads alive for another turn. A Draco Meteor comes out into this Iron Hands booster energy, and it does nothing with that booster energy.
And Drain Punch doing a good amount into Rillaboom, getting some passive healing off. Plus that grassy terrain, it's looking like Iron Hands and Iron Treads are in a very great position here. Two of the future Paradox Pokemon really showing why they are great on these Miraidon teams.
You are definitely right on that, Adid. And now with the Steel Roller on the side of Iron Treads, you could go into either slot here, but it's all about which side, because Raging Bolt will fall to the Steel Roller here, not only because it's a super effective attack now, but because this Iron Treads is carrying the Life Orb, which boosts the power of damage by 30% at the cost of 10% of your Pokemon's health. So here's the Steel Roller. It comes into the Rillaboom slot, and it knocks out Rillaboom. So once again, Jonathan is saying, I want the terrain control in this battle.
Right, great play by Jonathan taking out the grassy terrain.
And we see a Draco Meteor, but it misses. The 90% miss affects the Raging Bolt here as a Wild Charge neutral hit. Does good damage in a Raging Bolt. It does take a little bit of recoil there, but I think that's a fair trade-off.
Oh, absolutely. This is a great... Jonathan is in a great position. We'll have to see what this Calyrex and Raging Bolt deal with the rest of Jonathan's Pokemon.
Exactly, because now Jonathan still has Miraidon in the back. He can bring out Miraidon here and activate Iron Treads' Quark Drive. And if this Iron Treads is fast to get the speed boost on Quark Drive, it'll be faster than this Shadow Rider, and it'll do big damage in the Calyrex.
Right, and we see that there are still 2 turns of Light Screen by virtue of Grimmsnarl's Lake Clay, so it's still paying dividends even after it's fallen.
And that's the beauty of the Light Clay. By getting those extra 3 turns, now you put Landon in a position of, do I attack or do I try to set up and sweep afterwards?
Right, and we see the switch out of that Iron Hands into that Miraidon. So it should be very interesting to see what Jonathan goes for.
We see the Electric Terrain activate, and it is a
Speed
speed
boosting.
booster on the Iron Treads. Iron Head comes out, a 30% chance to flinch here after the HP on the Life Orb. There is no flinch. Meanwhile, Psyshock coming out and doing respectable damage into this Miraidon, but this is -2 with the booster special attack. Good damage into Miraidon through the light screen, I would think.
And most notably, Steel Roller is active again for this Iron Treads, giving Jonathan a more stronger option.
That is true, but I don't know if he would click that and risk his Iron Treads being slower than the Calyrex Shadow Rider, unless he switches out the Miraidon and goes for Steel Roller. We do see Calyrex protect itself, Raging Bolt also protecting itself, just to see what Miraidon wants to go for here. As Iron Treads, it did go for Steel Roller.
Right. I really wanted to target down into that Calyrex, and I think it's a safe play if Jonathan wanted to go for that. So we'll have to see.
And we see Electro Drift was the move of choice, but again, Iron Treads is faster. Steel Roller will come out, and that'll do big damage while removing the terrain. But even still, I mean, this is a Choice Specs Miraidon here. As we do see a switch out on the side of Jonathan, bringing that Iron Hands back out here. He just was trying to scout, it looks like, on what Landon was going to do here, because now he's going to go for the Steel Roller here, once again into this Calyrex Shadow Rider most likely. But the Thunderclap comes out, and it fails into Miraidon and in comes that Steel Roller. Big damage. Calyrex goes down.
Right, that is what I wanted to see. Iron targeting down that Calyrex. Excellent play by Jonathan.
That was a beautiful play. Going for that Steel Roller, removing it from the battlefield, and now it's a Raging Bull with under 50 HP, and Landon seeing the writing on the walls. He is going to lock in the surrender, and we are going to a game 3.
Very exciting way to start off this League Cup. Two very exciting teams to play, but it seems like Jonathan has really found his footing in this match. We'll have to see if Landon can make adjustments for the adjustments.
I mean, do we see the Dodrio come again, do you think?
I want to, but its performance was not very inspiring in that game 1, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see if Dodrio comes back, because as we saw, Miraidon with the 2 future Paradox Pokemon having Grimmsnarl on the back too. I mean, Grimmsnarl took a booster energy special attack Thunderbolt through the light screen with the electric terrain, and it still survived. Now, it did get paralyzed for its troubles, but still, you don't think a Grimmsnarl would be able to survive that with all of those extra damage multipliers on top.
I think that could be an indication on how Jonathan's Grimmsnarl is trained. So very good allocation of stat points on Jonathan's side.
That could definitely be an option for what Jonathan did. Playing around moves that do massive damage, but having just enough bulk with just enough offense to do what he wants when he needs it. As we saw with the Iron Treads. And again, Iron Treads, it really shuts down a lot of Landon's team, with the exception of that Urshifu Rapid Strike.
Right. I think Iron Treads is a very excellent call from Jonathan. So we'll have to see how Landon adapts to Iron Treads.
It definitely will be interesting how he adapts to it. I could see maybe Ogerpon making an appearance here, because I mean, Ogerpon, we enjoy our Queen Ogerpon around here. I'm personally a Cornerstone fan. I don't know about you.
I love Wellspring, but I think Heartflame is pretty great too. I love all the Ogerpon forms, but Ogerpon is very good into Miraidon by virtue of being a grass type. If it locks itself into an electric type move, it should be able to resist. Now, there's always that chance of Draco Meteor, but that's a risk you're going to have to be willing to take.
You always have to assume that risk when you're playing Pokemon, especially with moves that are less than 100% accurate, because if a move is not 100% accurate, it feels like it's 50% accurate.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, don't get me started on Heat Wave. Don't get me started on Heat Wave. Or Precipice Blaze.
So we're in a game 3, very excited. You can see the pressure on Jonathan's face. And we see Landon kind of having a bit of fun.
And we see another switch up on Jonathan's side. He's leading Grimmsnarl and Miraidon game 3. So he led Grimmsnarl all 3 games in this set, but he brought his restricted out first. And we see Calyrex, Shadow Rider, and Rillaboom on the side of Landon. And by virtue of the speed tiers here at Deep, the Miraidon's Hadron Engine will activate first with Electric Terrain, but Grassy Surge will override it, and we have Grassy Terrain instead.
Right, so this is going to be very interesting. Will Jonathan reshuffle his Pokemon by Volt Switch, or be switching it out, or will he keep in this Miraidon? A very exciting turn.
It definitely is going to be a very interesting turn, to say the least, because Landon is considering this Terra Dark on the Calyrex once again to avoid a Prankster Thunder Wave and ensuring that Jonathan's Miraidon will be faster than his Calyrex Shadow Rider here. However, he could maybe save the Terastallization, is what Jonathan is hoping.
Right. I think the Terastallization is going to be very impactful in this game. And we see the Terastallization onto the Calyrex Shadow, turning into that Terra Dark.
And it is going to be a little bit more evil than it already was as a Calyrex Shadow Rider.
Right, but more importantly, inoculating it from Grimmsnarl's Thunder Wave. So
we see Fake Out, and a critical hit Fake Out to boot. But there's that light screen. So now it comes down to what's going to happen with this Calyrex afterwards, because Calyrex just got to +2 on that nasty plot. But it's now weak to Miraidon with Dazzling Gleam.
Right, I think we're going to have to see if Miraidon is feeling the love.
It's going to be very interesting to see what Miraidon ends up going for here. If it goes for something like a Dazzling Gleam or maybe even a Volt Switch to regain the terrain control. Meanwhile, that Grimmsnarl, in theory, could just go for a Reflect potentially and get more defense raises on Jonathan's side of the field here, as we do see Rillaboom switch out for Incineroar.
Yes, it's a revolving door of Pokemon, and the fake out roulette keeps on spinning.
And we see Calyrex going for the Protect here. And it is going to protect itself. Thunder Wave coming out into the Rillaboom slot, but by virtue of that Dark type, as we said, it doesn't work. In comes the Miraidon Volt Switch. You're doing just under 50% to that Incineroar, but most importantly, doing damage and switching out.
Right, I think that was an excellent turn by Jonathan, but also an excellent turn from Landon too, because Incineroar having that fake out pressure allows Landon to decide, do I want to go on the offensive or do I just want to set up another nasty plot?
Exactly, because also by virtue of Calyrex being a Dark type now, it's weak to Iron Hands, Drain Punches, and Low Kick. Now, Low Kick won't do as much damage, but Drain Punch will do a big amount of damage.
Right, and we'll have to see how... Oh, we see that Iron Treads on the field. Yes.
This is a very interesting switch out here. Getting Iron Treads out here, but now it makes Landon in a precarious position because Grimmsnarl could, in theory, switch out and go into the Miraidon to activate the Hadron Engine, and Iron Treads will be faster than the Calyrex here. But if Jonathan doesn't switch out Grimmsnarl here and brings out Rillaboom and goes for something like a Protect maybe on the Iron Treads, then he has the terrain control. But at the same time, he has to worry about the potential of a fake out into the Iron Treads and an Astral Barrage.
Right, this terrain mind game is going to be so impactful. On the one hand, that Rillaboom in the back is huge. This mind game is going to be huge. If Landon doesn't time his switch perfectly, that booster speed on that Iron Treads.
And then we see the nasty plot, though. That was a great read by Landon. He saw the fake out, he saw the Protect coming, and he gets his Calyrex to +4 again. We saw how much damage it did in game one, indeed. This is going to be really scary.
Right, and I think at +4, this is going to take out Iron Treads no matter what. Just a very passive turn. And we see Parting Shot for the option to manually switch out. So this should be very good for Landon.
I think it comes down to what Jonathan attacked, because he does have high horsepower on this Iron Treads, and Iron Treads is at neutral attack right now. If Jonathan went high horsepower into this Incineroar and hits, this will be major. But it is the Steel Roller into the Calyrex Shadow Rider, which protects, and now Incineroar gets to go for a Parting Shot here into that Iron Treads.
Right. Now, I think that there's a play... Landon is in a great position right now. Being able to get that Rillaboom back in, having control of the terrain. Still not punishing the potential Miraidon switch in, but...
We do see the foul play coming out here and doing just under 50% on that Rillaboom with the foul play using Rillaboom's attack over the -1 Grimmsnarl.
Right, but there's also a pin with Fake Out if Landon chooses to do so, and he could perhaps switch in his Incineroar, so we'll have to see what Landon does.
We will have to see that, because in theory, Jonathan could go for a Protect once again, but at the same time, Jonathan does have that ability to control the terrain for at least one turn.
And we see Iron Treads getting Protect off, not a double Protect.
And we get the Astral Barrage coming out. This is +4 Calyrex into the Grimmsnarl with the Resist and the Light Screen. How much damage is this going to do? Just under 50%, but that just shows how powerful that can be.
Right, and we see a smart U-turn onto Grimmsnarl, meaning that Landon still will have the terrain advantage.
And can bring out the Incineroar once again to intimidate this Iron Treads, but have that fake out pressure.
Right, this is a -2 Iron Treads being vulnerable to fake out too. This is not looking good for Jonathan. and that foul play does little to no damage to that Incineroar. Landon is playing this wonderfully.
But also, the grass just disappeared from the battlefield, so now Steel Roller can't be used at all.
Right.
You can go for the high horsepower, you can go for the Iron Head here, but it's still -2 with the Life Orb. It is not going to do much damage to either this Calyrex Shadow Rider or the Incineroar here. Landon is in a beautiful position with how he's been positioning his Pokemon.
Right, and we see why the Calyrex Shadow balance team is one of the most dominating in the field. That pressure of Incineroar supporting such a powerful restricted like Calyrex Shadow, this should be doing so much damage.
And in comes the Astral Barrage at +4. Almost knocks out Grimmsnarl too, but the foul play coming out here doing just a little bit more damage to the Incineroar. This is a really tough position for Jonathan right now. His Grimmsnarl is almost down. His Araquanid is almost down. In theory, Landon could go for that Psyshock here. Does not have to go for the Astral Barrage. He can just go for a Psyshock into the Araquanid slot here and something like a knockoff into the Grimmsnarl slot, and he is in a really good position.
Oh, absolutely. Landon has been playing this so well.
So we're going to see what happens here. What did this Calyrex go for? And more importantly, what did the Araquanid go for? It went for Protect.
Right.
It went for Protect here. What did Calyrex go for? It went for the Psyshock. It went for the single target Psyshock.
Right, and I think Landon was expecting that Grimmsnarl to switch out, but going for a Psyshock into that Grimmsnarl, but still a pretty safe turn for Landon. I think just trying to close out this game as quickly as possible.
Exactly, but we also have to make a note here. The Incineroar is faster than that Grimmsnarl.
Right.
And we do see a Protect trying to get a double Protect on the Araquanid. It fails. Psyshock coming out, a +4 special attack into the defense. Araquanid goes down. Wide Guard is down for the remainder of the battle.
Yes, and +5. This is just such a good... Calyrex is snowballing, as we can see.
And there's the knockoff into the Grimmsnarl here, knocking off the Grimmsnarl. And now it's just Iron Treads and Miraidon against the world. But there is the threat of the Rillaboom in the back for Landon to reset the terrain. And Calyrex will be faster than both the Iron Treads and the Miraidon at +5.
Yes, this looks like it's completely over for Jonathan. We'll have to see if there's any way that Jonathan can claw back, but it's not looking good. We'll have to see.
Honestly, right now, this is going to be a very tough comeback for Jonathan, but it's not impossible. There are potential opportunities to come back on this. I mean, you could even, in theory, just go for Helping Hand Astral Barrage here, because I feel like you could live.
Yeah.
I feel like you could live, but again, just because I feel it doesn't mean it's actually true.
Right, I think it's always better to play safe, but we'll have to see. I just think Landon is playing this CSR team so well. Very unfortunate that, Dodrio wasn't able to be that CSR counter that we wanted it to be.
It definitely wasn't in this game, but that just shows the power of Terra Dark on the Calyrex Shadow Rider combined with a single target attack.
Right.
Because some Calyrex Shadow Riders, they just run Astral Barrage or Expanding Force if they're partnered with someone like an Indeedee.
Right, I think the Psyshock set is just so good. Even Draining Kiss would have been good, but just very impressive. And we see that
the Terastallization coming out on the side of Miraidon here. Terra Fairy Miraidon without the Hadron Engine, but the choice specs here. I wonder how much damage this will do to Calyrex here. And it's going to do nothing because Calyrex protected.
Right. And I really like this play by Jonathan going for that spread damage, knocking out that Rillaboom. But unfortunately, this gives Landon another pivot. Well, I mean...
And he went Steel Roller into the Calyrex Shadow Rider here, protecting itself one final time. And now there's an Astral Barrage that might be coming on this Calyrex here.
Right, when there's an Astral Barrage, there's a way.
It feels that way, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
And we see the Fake Out coming out on the side of Rillaboom. affecting that Miraidon here. This is a +5 Astral Barrage. I don't know if they'll survive through the light screen. They do not.
And Landon Story takes round 1 of the Oviedo Cup.
What a performance by Calyrex Shadow Rider. What a performance by Landon Story. Just riding that Calyrex Shadow Rider, getting those all-important special attack boosts, and just showcasing how very volatile and healthy Calyrex Shadow Rider is for the game.
Right. Interesting to note, Calyrex Shadow did not make top 8 at the Birmingham Pokemon Championship, so we'll have to see if players are going to be innovating on Calyrex further. But I have to admit, Calyrex Shadow Rider did look extremely good in that match. So
it had a phenomenal matchup against Jonathan Martin's team, and having Rillaboom over Miraidon, that just showcases the terrain wars. We have seen that time and again. Either you want to win the weather or you want to win the terrain. And if you win either one of those, then your team is theoretically at an advantage, but it's all about how the trainer adapts to the situation, because just because you have the advantage in the terrain or the setting does not mean that you're going to win the battle.
Oh, absolutely. I think there's so much dimensions to Pokemon, especially with the addition of terrains and these special abilities like Hadron Engine or Orichalcum Pulse. So very, very interesting game design on both Koraidon and Miraidon.
And again, we saw Dodrio. We at least saw Pokemon from our childhood.
Yes, absolutely. We really did enjoy seeing the Dodrio, even though it didn't do anything.
Although we forgot to mention why Dodrio was on Jonathan's team. The reason why, ladies and gentlemen, is because Jonathan Martin saw this tweet by a Japanese player, and it was a Dodrio that was on the ranked ladder, and it was doing really well. And Jonathan was just like, if this gets 50 likes, I will run Dodrio at the San Antonio Pokemon Regional Championships next weekend in San Antonio, Texas. Not San Antonio, Florida, because there is a San Antonio, Florida.
I did not know that.
It's actually where St. Leo University is in San Antonio.
Oh.
But that tweet ended up going over and ratioing the original creator's tweet. So Jonathan Martin has to run Dodrio next week.
Yeah, I'm hoping that he really solidifies the lines into this, because sometimes we're felled by our own hubris, right?
I don't know about that. I don't think I got any hubris. Maybe a little. But ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take a quick break, and we will be right back with round 2 of the Oviedo January League Cup here at Versus Games in Oviedo, Florida.